so happy we alive.
Patrick Moore, and welcome again to www.mooresongs.com. We're here in Washington, D.C., and I'm delighted to have a tremendous author to speak very briefly, at least with us. Let me say this by way of introduction. A year or so ago, I was talking with a associate, a cardiovascular surgeon from California named Tom O'Connell, and I asked Tom what some of his personal interests were, and one of them was doing some writing in the area of the drug reform movement. And I talked with Tom a few months later and asked him how he progressed on his goal, and he told me that he had moved on to other aspects of activism within the movement, but that he'd temporarily ceased writing because he had discovered a book that was written so well, was so much to the point, and expressed the beliefs and concepts that he wanted to get across so well that he had simply put down the pen. And he told me the name of this book was Drug Crazy by Mike Gray. And just by coincidence, a while later I saw Mr. Gray's book and got a copy, and I read it, and I've shared it with any number of friends, all of whom have told me that in reading this book, they discovered aspects of the war on drug and the drug reform movement that they had never compelled them in such a way, and so that is what's coming from the past. What I see in the future is if these things have not already occurred, my astrological self predicts that this book, Mike Gray's Drug Crazy, will be turned into some kind of a screenplay, and in turn turned into some kind of a movie format, and that it will come forth into the televisions and theaters of the world, and will be a happy little piece of fireworks in what's coming ahead for a happier world. Now,
well, thank you for those kind thoughts, Patrick. It was very nice of you. I put 6 years of research into the book, research and writing, and basically I must say it was one of the most shocking experiences I've ever had, and I've had some shocking experiences, but writing and researching Drug Crazy profoundly changed my thinking about the whole drug problem and how we got into this mess and how we can get out. It was amazing to me to discover that 100% of the scientific evidence, the logic is all on one side of the argument, and that there is absolutely no scientific, political, or moral evidence that weighs in on behalf of drug prohibition. Interestingly, one of the most amazing things that I discovered when I was digging into this problem was we did not have a drug problem in the United States until we created this ourselves. When the drug war began in this country, it was in 1914. The first drug laws were passed against public possession and consumption of narcotics. Prior to that time, if you wanted drugs, or needed drugs because you were addicted to morphine or whatever, you simply went to your doctor, and he wrote you a prescription for whatever you were addicted to, and you took that to the drugstore, which is where you used to get drugs, and the pharmacist gave you whatever it was that you needed, and you then shot it or drank it or swallowed it or whatever, and then you went off to work because all of the at least 80% of the addicts in the United States that we were able to keep records on had jobs and homes and families and were tax-paying, productive citizens with a medical problem that was handled by their doctor. And interestingly, there weren't that many of them. You know, when this began in 1914, there were only 200,000 or 300,000 addicts in the entire United States. The best estimates that Harvard historian David Musto has come up with, compiling all of the various results, points to somewhere around 250,000 addicts in the entire United States. Now, at that time, that would represent 3 people in 1,000, okay? 80 years later, after the expenditure of $1 trillion at the cost of tens of thousands of lives and filling the prisons to the rafters, we've managed to increase that figure of addiction by a factor of 5. We now have 15 people per 1,000 addicted to morphine and so forth. So, you would have to say by any measure, the war on drugs has been an absolutely colossal disaster. And we're now spending $17 billion a year in federal money, a matching amount in the states, for a total of $30 billion annually on the war on drugs just here in the United States. We've arrested 1 million people every year for marijuana offenses. And all of the scientific evidence, and I must say I've read the vast majority of this stuff. I was trained as an engineer. So engineers are interested in facts. We're not, I mean, the reason we were able to go to the moon is because there is no religious orthodoxy about gravity, right? You just simply have to go by the rules and design it according to reality. You can't just create your own reality. In this arena, in the area of drug use and abuse, we're living in a fantasy world. And rather than keeping drugs out of the hands of children, which was certainly our intention when we got involved in this. I mean, I would say, wouldn't you, that that's the number one goal
Concern,
that everybody can agree on, is how do we keep these drugs out of the hands of our kids?
Exactly, that's a big selling point.
Right, and in the drugs we include, of course, alcohol and tobacco and marijuana and morphine and everything else. A worthwhile goal. What have we done instead? We've created a situation where it's easier for them to get heroin and marijuana than it is to get beer, which is insane. And we've created a situation where kids have to be on the front line in the marketplace. In a marketplace that's so dangerous, they have to be armed. They passed a law in Illinois trying to get at the root of these, and the law was if you were caught dealing anything within 1,000 yards of a school, a church, or a public park, you got a mandatory 10, it was a Class X felony, and you get a mandatory 10 years. Well, that covers all of the city of Chicago, because almost every place in the city is within 1,000 yards of a park, a playground, or a school. So, what happened? I mean, did that eliminate drug dealing around schools? No, didn't even touch the problem. What it did was, the next morning, all the dealers on the street were under 15. Because if you're under 15, you're ineligible for a mandatory sentence under this law. You get 30 days in the Audi home. So what happened was, all the dealers just simply sent their little brothers out into the street. And they had one dealer, when I was riding with the cops in Chicago, the undercover cops doing research for Drug Crazy, they had one kid there who was 11. You know, this is what we've accomplished with a regimen of prohibition, which was insane. I mean, this is a replay of alcohol prohibition, you know, just with different shading. Far more dangerous, a lot more money involved. And the people that are operating in this arena right now would make Al Capone look like a Sunday school teacher. So anyhow, that's...
Well, let me just interject and say this is one thing that I was going to ask you, which is asking the ultimate extreme, is simply that